In the 1970s, Wes Craven was a struggling professor whose personal life was crashing before him. His marijuana use had escalated to cocaine as he began to write and edit under various fake names in numerous hardcore X-rated films. Craven at some point even played a role in the making of the X-rated movie Deep Throat, which is historically known as one of the most significant breakthrough porno movies in history. Wes Craven sobered up and began creating movies of his own. His first movie, The Last House on the Left, was produced by Sean Sexton Cunningham, who also once worked in pornographic movies, but would later go on to create the Friday the 13th franchise, giving birth to Jason, the disfigured boy from Camp Crystal Lake. Craven continued the golden age of the horror film genre that we now know as slasher films. True story, in the 1970s and 80s, 116 Asian men died in the United States while having nightmares. These men were young and healthy, non-smoking individuals who died from what we now categorize as the sudden, unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. The Los Angeles Times ran articles about these men, including a particular story about a son of a family who escaped a war-torn Cambodia. This son told his parents that something evil was trying to kill him in his dreams. This prompted the boy to stay awake for days on end. Concerned, his parents forced sleeping pills on him and made him go to sleep. That night, they woke to screams coming from his bedroom. But by the time they got to him, the boy had died in his nightmares. In his closet, they found a coffee maker and many of the unswallowed sleeping pills that he did not take. The family believed that the nighttime dream demon called Da Cho had taken their son. Having read this article, Wes Craven was inspired to create a monster who was tied into the deepest recesses of our subconscious. And with the song Dreamweaver by Gary Wright as inspiration, he created the most nightmare-inducing horror villain that the world had ever seen. Wes Craven chose the name Frederick Charles Krueger for his abomination after having been bullied as a kid by a boy with that same name. This name has stayed with Wes for so long, in fact, that in the movie The Last House on the Left, the villain's name is actually Krug. Craven's original script painted Freddy Krueger out to be a child molester, which was pretty much the worst thing that Wes could think of. This, however, had to be changed to avoid a controversy after a cluster of sexual abuse scandals came out of Manhattan Beach, where a handful of preschool teachers and members of the McMartin family were accused of having sexual orgies with preschool children. This and other similar events across the country spawned parents accusing teachers, priests, and even daycare professionals of sexual abuse, witchcraft, and even satanic rituals on younger children all across the country. So the decision was made to instead make Freddy a child murderer to avoid any conflict. New Line Cinema began shooting Freddy Krueger's movie A Nightmare on Elm Street at 1428 Genesee Avenue in Los Angeles, California. A home which, by the way, still stands sporting the same red door as in the movie. Here, Freddy Krueger had a traumatic childhood. He was often teased by his classmates, mostly because of the parents of Springwood, who taught their children that Freddy was born of pure evil. The song 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you is in fact a perfect example of the ridicule that the children of Springwood used to torment Freddy, even as a little kid. This is because Freddy was the son of Amanda Krueger, a Christian nun that took the name Sister Mary Helena as her name in Jesus Christ. One day, while tending to the criminally insane, Sister Mary Helena was accidentally locked in at the Weston Hills Asylum by the guards who were hurrying home to be with their families for Christmas. The hundreds of crazy inmates found her and hid her away for several days as they took turns brutally raping and beating her. Nine months later, in September of 1942, a violated and pregnant Sister Mary Helena gave birth to Freddy Krueger, a bastard son of 100 rapists.
Push. Now. Push! Push! Push!
To maintain her faith, Sister Mary Helena had to give baby Freddy up for adoption. Edward Underwood, who by the way was played by Alice Cooper in Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, adopted Freddy. Unfortunately, Mr. Underwood was a severe alcoholic who beat on Freddy daily. The teasing at school continued, and it wasn't long before young Freddy's anger caused him to kill his class's pet hamster by smashing it with a hammer. As Freddy grew older, he began to slice himself for pleasure. Freddy's adopted father walked in one day on one of Freddy's self-mutilation sessions, and he began to beat on Freddy with a belt.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Growing pleasure from the beating, Freddy killed his adopted father by shoving a razor into his eye socket. This would be Freddy's first known human victim ever. Having never been caught for the murder, Freddy dropped out of high school and began working at the local power plant as a janitor. He met his wife Loretta Krueger as she apparently saw something good in the bastard son of 100 maniacs that the rest of the town could not see. Freddy returned to love, and soon Loretta gave birth to Freddy Krueger's daughter, Catherine Krueger. Freddy tried very hard to be normal for the sake of his daughter, but the spite he had grown toward the people of Springwood soon consumed him. Freddy built a special room in the basement of his family's home where he crafted tools of death, bladed gloves that Freddy used to torture, slash, and kill 20 of the children of Springwood. One day, Freddy's wife discovered this special room, and terrified, she promised she would keep it a secret.
I won't tell.
This did not stop Freddy from strangling and pummeling his wife to death in front of his 6-year-old daughter.
But you won't tell, will you?
I won't tell.
Little Catherine Krueger would later tell how her father killed her mommy, and needless to say, the authorities found his special room, and Freddy was arrested for all the murders. Freddy stood trial, but was released on technicalities that included not having been read his Miranda rights and being served a wrongly signed search warrant.
The evidence presented to this court was obtained during an illegal arrest.
Oh, no.
Not in compliance with the Supreme Court's ruling on the rights of the accused. With great regret, I must grant defense's motion to dismiss.
Your Honor, this man cannot be allowed to walk free.
Then he should have been read his rights at the time of his arrest.
This infuriated the townspeople, and they formed a vigilante mob that cornered Freddy in the boiler room lair where he worked and where he would sometimes take his victims to torture. Wearing a green and red striped sweater, because according to Wes Craven, our eyes have difficulty processing these two colors together. A greenish brown fedora hat, which was inspired by a homeless man that scared the shit out of young Wes Craven when he was a kid. And one of his bladed claws on his right hand, which Wes says was inspired by his cat's claws and our human primal fear of clawed creatures. Freddy was set on fire. Relieved, the townspeople watched Freddy burn.
I'll be back! I'm free! Free!
Freddy's evil ways were presumed dead, but his evil work had not gone unnoticed. Apparently, hell was watching because 3 satanical dream demons came to Freddy and offered him the chance to continue the massacre in exchange for his soul.
And you shall be forever!
Freddy Krueger accepted, and he was instantly transformed into a human entity with hellish power.
That was then. This is now. Springwood's nightmares are just beginning.
Freddy could now survive in the dream realm as a dream demon and wait for his victims to go to sleep. Freddy would then force his victims into his dream world and kill them, essentially breaking the fourth wall, where they would die in real life, appearing to be a suicide or murder by someone else. Freddy's presence is usually made known by the memory of 3 of his victims jumping rope and chanting, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, which he uses to instill fear in his victims. Using this fear, Freddy becomes more powerful as his existence relies on fear, and he will use these fears such as the fear of bugs, the fear of heights, or the fear of drowning.
How's this for a wet dream?
In the way he kills his victims.
But you can't check out.
In the dream realm, Freddy can manipulate reality. He can also enter and manipulate people's minds, sometimes forcing them to kill in the real world. Like this, he once entered the mind of Jason Voorhees, who he then coaxed into killing in his honor. This showed that Freddy even has the power to supersede certain demons or entities and control them at will.
Remember me, Jason. Make them remember what fear tastes like!
Freddy has been known to physically enter the real world. Here he can be stabbed, sliced, punched, and even decapitated without completely dying. Even here he can become intangible, appearing and disappearing at will. He can shapeshift, and he has telekinetic powers that have stretched as far as producing mass psychosis on every parent of Springwood. Freddy can possess the human body and soul.
Now, come on!
Let me handle this, bitch.
And if for whatever reason Freddy is killed, hell will spit him back, allowing his return when enough people begin to fear him once again. This pretty much secures Freddy's existence as an immortal, everlasting entity that can never truly die. Freddy Krueger's main weapons are his gloves. They are self-made custom devices that come in different shapes, blades, and sizes, and are specifically engineered to slice and dice human flesh as they were crafted by Freddy himself. They vary from 4 to 5 blades on each finger and thumb, and they can sometimes be protruding from Freddy's actual flesh and bone. Although he's usually seen with just one, Freddy has been known to wear 2-bladed gloves at the same time, one on each hand. Freddy does have some weaknesses. Freddy Krueger has actually died 9 times at the hands of humans. He seems to be afraid of fire as it is permanently engraved as his original form of death. Freddy can be pulled out of the dream realm and into the dream world if the person holding on to Freddy wakes up. He is essentially weaker and mortal and can be killed. When he dies, he cannot return until people fear him again. This can sometimes take years, allowing Springwood a rest from all the carnage.
Not strong enough yet. Well, I will be soon enough.
Because in his lifetime, Freddy never left Springwood. His influence beyond this city is almost impossible. Although he did once believe actress Heather Langenkamp was his main protagonist, Nancy Thompson, allowing his influence to spread to the city of Hollywood. Freddy's reflection will injure Freddy as it is a reminder of his own pain and self-torment, and if he sees himself in a reflection, his souls will burst out from within, and he will die. Because Freddy is pure evil, religious artifacts such as crucifixes and even holy water can also injure and kill him. Freddy struggles with strong-willed individuals who are not afraid of him. These humans like Nancy Thompson, Alice Johnson, Freddy Krueger's daughter Catherine, and even the Dream Warriors, who in the movie still kinda died, can sometimes replicate superhuman powers or overcome certain obstacles in their dreams that can injure Freddy within his own realm. Freddy Krueger's first movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street, spawned several sequels, 8 to be exact. His movies have earned over $457 million worldwide at the box office. And this is not counting all of his merchandise, toys, video games, and even the Freddy Krueger image that continues to generate millions every year. This has immortalized Freddy Krueger into the Horror Hall of Fame, alongside characters such as Michael Myers, The Exorcist, Jason Voorhees, Chucky the Doll, and Hannibal Lecter. Freddy has crossed over and cameoed into many other franchises. Perhaps the most notable and ongoing is the game of cameo tag between Freddy's franchise, the Evil Dead franchise, and the Friday the 13th franchise. This back and forth began when Sam Raimi, the creator of the Evil Dead, put a poster of Wes Craven's 1979 film, The Hills Have Eyes, in the 1981 movie The Evil Dead. Wes Craven returned by showing the Evil Dead movie on Nancy Thompson's TV in one of the scenes of 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street. In return, Sam Raimi conveniently placed Freddy's glove above the door of the tool shed in his 1987 sequel, Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn. Jason Voorhees would then crash this cameo tag party in the 1991 film The Final Friday: Jason Goes to Hell, which featured both the Ex Mortis Necronomicon, aka the Book of Dead, and Freddy's hand and bladed glove, which pulled Jason to hell after Freddy was killed off in what was supposed to be the last Freddy movie ever, 1991's Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. This game of cameo tag merged all of their three worlds together, and in 2003, Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger met for the first time, battling it out in the movie Freddy vs. Jason, which later also developed into a series where Ash Williams and this trifecta of cameos came together in the comic book known as Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, and Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash: Nightmare Warriors. Freddy's glove has also made a cameo appearance in the 1998 movie Bride of Chucky at the beginning of the movie in an evidence room locker that contained the remains of Chucky the Killer doll, Leatherface's chainsaw, and the masks of Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. In 2011, Freddy appeared in Mortal Kombat as the first guest character ever from a film franchise to appear in a video game as a DLC character.
Freddy Krueger's bladed hands tore through Shao Kahn. The demonically enhanced weapons had been more than a match for the Emperor's dark magic. Though Freddy had saved Earthrealm, Nightwolf recognized him as an evil spirit, and in a shamanistic ritual, sent him back to the Dream Realm. But that decision proved ruinous. Freddy did not resist. He welcomed a return to immortality. From the Dream Realm, he will again create a nightmare in Earthrealm.
Freddy has also appeared in Adult Swim episodes of Robot Chicken.
That man is attacking our children! What? No, you've got it all wrong. It's the gifts that I hate. Child abuser!
The Simpsons Treehouse of Terror.
Your acquaintance.
It was only a dream.
The parody movie Stan Helsing.
Pass me a roll of toilet paper, please.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
South Park.
We need you, Fred.
Like you needed me to kill those teenagers to stop the Russians?
We had a country to protect.
Protect it yourselves this time.
Damn it, I'm not working for the military anymore, Krueger.
Then you should have no problem covering it up.
And Family Guy.
Peter, you just pooped all over the bed.
When you poop in your dreams, you poop for real.
The New York Times selected A Nightmare on Elm Street as one of the best 1,000 movies ever made. In 2003, Freddy Krueger was named the 40th greatest villain ever by the American Film Institute, and in 2004, Bravo TV ranked Tina Gray's death, which is Freddy Krueger's very first on-screen kill ever, as the 17th scariest moment in movie history. It is no doubt that Freddy Krueger has invaded our dreams permanently, and like the parents of the city of Springwood, Ohio, now the world can't seem to forget that the only way to get rid of Freddy is to forget about him for good. So it's only a matter of time before he returns.